anybody who's been on a spiritual path for a minute knows that a lot of this happening now has been predicted for a long time. Certainly many years ago, while speaking with my teacher, he mentioned a lot of this, what we're up against.
We're talking about Papa Joe.
Yes, Papa Joe. And he mentioned these very times that we're entering into or have been into, and it's just sort of escalating every day as we go along. There is, as I've mentioned in many videos at this point, there is a war going on, and a lot of people are asleep to it. And I think that's a great reason why, when we were talking last time, I thought it would be positive to talk again about some of this, and maybe we could bring some awareness to people and maybe get them out of a political mindset, although it's important to watch and pay attention, but also to bring them into how the political arena is being manipulated to control emotions.
Well, it sounds like what everybody would be thinking about. So yeah, let's definitely talk about this. You're mentioning something which to me sounds really fascinating. This idea that this is not new. It's been in the making. Maybe from the point of view of what you're talking about with Papa Joe, and that idea, help us create a framework around the times that we live in now, and how a lot of this has been known or seen or seeded, because you were working with Papa Joe a while ago, right? Before anybody would be thinking about what's going on in the 2020s.
Yeah. Well, everything that started around 2020, I remember speaking with my teacher about. But when he talked to me about a lot of this, I somehow knew. It was funny, he had a way of speaking to a part of me that on an everyday personality level, I didn't understand it. But on a soul level, I understood completely. And that I feel like a lot of what's happening now and what we're going into more and more, I've been prepared for lifetimes for. And I would love to talk to those that can relate to that feeling, or they feel that they were meant to be here at this time. Obviously, I'm not talking to everyone. Some people just will listen to that and not know what I'm talking about and want to celebrate, the brat summer or whatever. But I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to those that are feeling this in their heart and their soul, and the sensitive ones. The sensitive ones.
I mean, that's the trick, isn't it? To be able to contextualize everything that's happening around us and find the feeling that is authentic.
Yeah.
Not necessarily
what we're being told.
Take on the feeling that is being given to us.
Yes. That's a big part of what I really wanted to talk to you and everyone about today, and that is the importance of really knowing how the energy out there is affecting us, and how, if people were to know, really what I mean is that, the intention of a lot of this is to harvest our energies. So people don't be frightened by this, but a lot of what, as we omit frequencies, that is being put out there, and it's going into a collective consciousness, that there are forces at work that are using that energy to gain more momentum. Now that sounds like a sci-fi movie, But that's what I'm here to explain today about that sci-fi movie that has been predicted to me, and this wisdom that Papa passed down to me and talked very openly with me about. I spent several moments with him and went to New Zealand and studied with him and had a lot of conversations about this. And Papa Joe, if anybody doesn't know, was my teacher. He was a Maori Tohunga from New Zealand. His birth was actually predicted through a star, as some of his ancestors would point out as they started to see the star appear.
Wow.
They knew it was him coming through.
There's only a couple of people who get to have a story that involves a birth story that involves a star, right?
I know. I know. He played himself down on purpose. I often tell people, like, if you look for information on him on the internet, it's very hard to find anything. And, it was the time. It wasn't internet. Like, you couldn't just put your phone up and then it's on Instagram, Facebook, So, there's very little. But how he's changed so many lives, including my own, is amazing.
I have so many questions or doors that I want to open, but maybe can you talk more about some of these conversations or sharings that Papa Joe had with you about the time we're now going through right now?
Yeah. Well, without saying too much, but saying what I need to say, because a lot of this would seem like, for my people that work with me personally, they understand this conversation. I've talked to some about, not everybody's at the same level, but there are forces at work that really want to stupefy the masses. They want people dumb, they want people unconscious, and they want people fighting. Obviously everybody's saying this, but who's paying attention? They want people fighting against one another. They want people to fight over race, and they want people to think that they're fighting over race, to think they're fighting over gender, to think they're fighting over all that's been presented is a huge distraction for the real reason. And it's been prophesized through many different ways, the polar shifts and the shifting of the polar and the degree in which it's going to bring about a consciousness shift. There's a big world out there, and it's bigger than just planet Earth. There's many galaxies and universes and that are working with us now. And I don't usually go in this direction, but I feel it's necessary now. And there is an awakening, a God consciousness, the great awakening that's meant to come in. The light so powerful. Christians talk about it, the second coming of Christ, all of the above, where it will bring people, if allowed, into a higher consciousness. And that's what I'm trying to maybe communicate today, how if you're not listening, if you're so hell-bent out over here, or looking over that direction, or anywhere but the truth. And this energy, this light is coming down. And do I feel it? 100%. When I'm quiet, when I'm alone, I feel this beautiful energy that's entering into all of our fields. We all have choice now to align with and allow for it to pull us forward. Now, in doing so, sometimes that will bring up all our lower frequencies that are in our body that need healing. Our old past haunts, our old resentments, little where we're pissed off with this person, our mom or dad. All those things need healing, because as this light comes in, it activates all those lower places. And I have to say, I don't care how full of God you are or how advanced you are, it's going to push all of us. You know, we all have our stuff that we need to work on. And in order to, let go of the old and in with the new. You know, I think Eckhart Tolle talks about it in The New Earth. You know, but we're here now. It's, where before it was like, oh, this thing that's happening in the future. We're actually here now.
I think one of the most interesting things about what you're saying and about this time that we are experiencing now together collectively is that, when we look out into the world and try to understand what's happening and come up with explanations or try to judge other people's explanations, it sounds like sides have to be taken, or something's good, something's bad. But actually what you're talking about, from what I understand, knowing you and your work, this is what plays out when you're working with an individual. Every single individual that you work with, there is a lot of drama going on in there that needs to get sorted out, that needs to get organized and
healed.
And aligned and healed.
Yeah, aligned and healed.
And when you're working with a person, like, there's something, obviously private about that, and it can be respected in that way. And then people end up finding their way, and they sort it all out. The high, the low, it all gets sorted out. You guide them through that, and then they reach the other side of something.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful, and it's theirs. I mean, I've experienced that with you, and I know other people who have experienced that with you, and we all have a similar experience of working with you. But now, the work that you do with people individually, and everything that you see, and everything that you experience, and choose to identify as work to help somebody heal, all those things are at play. Those same kind of dynamics are at play all around us collectively. As if the whole of humanity is like this individual that is going through something that potentially can receive like a profound alignment and a profound healing.
Yeah. Well, I feel like even with this, the most important thing I feel at this point is just having a humble heart, just having that place of just like, okay, God. And I think I cannot stress enough is that the connection back to God, and having a humble heart. And what I mean by that is just not being so hell-bent on being right. You know what I mean? And be like, okay, lead me, show me, guide me. Because after a while, the mind of the human can only take you so far. We need, in my opinion, the higher realms. We need God to, we need help in getting out of this matrix, if you like, to go higher, to even see, or maybe even just to experience my words that I'm saying right now. But a lot of times people that are tuning into me are generally people that have had experiences or somehow connected to this.
What are some things, like if you were to lay out a toolkit for people on humility or the humble heart, as you say, what would that very basic toolkit look like that somebody could say, I'm ready. Have these, or I can get these, and it's not going to be a big deal. I'm not going to, like, it's not going to force me to, whatever it is that might stop somebody from that. I don't know what it is, but I do know that right now, the times we live in, the external pressures seem to be exactly what you said, make a decision, decide what's right, or accept this is right, and then line up. Whatever camp there is, just get in there and drink the Kool-Aid in that camp and right? But you're saying, hey, there's another option.
Yeah, the other option is a buoyant one, and that is like where, I think what I'm talking about is people that have been, around, are now ready, obviously, because of their own life experiences. Maybe they've had many years of sickness or depression, or, I have all kinds of people coming to me, and their own karmic mazes that they have to, walk through. And it's that one of just like stopping and surrendering and asking for help.
So when you're saying surrendering and asking, that's to what? Because these days, if we surrender to just anything, we might be
okay. Lovely words. Surrendering to, like, having that conversation with you. To, I want to move forward. I want to not let this sickness, not let this depression, not let this obsession, not let these addictions rule me anymore. And I want to go to the higher place in myself to uplift myself from this prison.
So surrendering to the higher self.
Yes.
Really is what it's about.
Yeah. Feeling, tired of these things holding you back. Now, I'm really here to say that with like an earnest heart, an open heart, a kind heart, and focus, we can begin to shift into like our higher destiny. That stopping once in a while and saying, hey, I really don't think that this is my ultimate reality. I feel like I'm meant to do more. A lot of what I'm saying here too is, and I'm not explaining, is just assuming a lot of people, like their soul is calling them back home. They're getting these thoughts, feelings, emotions, dreams, these this yearning for something bigger and something more than this earthly plane. And for me, I started getting it very early on. I couldn't relate to a lot of people in my 20s. I was having these, I was deep. I was deep. I was having these, I was yearning for freedom. I was yearning for God. I was yearning for not feeling, suffocated by my reality. And it's not that anything was really bad, except that I was tortured. Sounds a bit extreme, but I was.
Tortured?
By my own fear, by my own, because my soul was here for advancement. My soul was here to wake up. My soul was here to wake up and then help others. And my personality was a spaz, in fear, afraid of their own shadow, so to speak. And couldn't live in that way that I was feeling that was calling me from my heart.
The image that comes to mind right now is like a baby deer that's born, and it's just like, here it is, and no clue, no instruction manual, and it's trying to figure out, what do I do with these long spindly legs, and it's getting up, and then it's just trying to somehow, it knows, but it doesn't know. Like, it knows it needs to get up on these things, but it doesn't know how to do that. And somehow you watch, it's a miracle watching, creatures that are new in the world, like just discovering themselves. And
it is a bit like that.
I mean, because what you're talking about is, okay, there's some kind of pain or struggle or fear or anxiety, which is so it's such a big thing that it creates a yearning,
Mm-hmm.
that yearning brings in the calling, the invitations, the dreams, or the whatever it is, the intuitions. Then you pursue that, and then it's just this like baby deer that's learning to stand on its legs over and over again. Is that what we're all going through, basically, as spiritual, from a spiritual point of view?
Yeah, we all are, in a sense. But I also want to point out this is by design. By design. I want people to hear this, by design, that this is where, those forces are stalking us, if you like. And if you think they're not, they are. They know you're vulnerable. And that's why a lot of this, let's say, New Age and occultism and worshiping false gods and, the drugs, that's just so, wow, it's like out of control. People are doing ayahuasca and these like designer journey drugs, every weekend. It's like, every weekend? Wow. And I'm like, well, that's just like, wanting to party, why don't you call it what it is? And a lot of people that come to me, the reason why I mention it in so many of my speaking points is because so many people come to me that are, doing that. And I feel like that's where a lot of these traps are, to those little baby deers. And people need to know, like working with this Tohunga, you learn a lot of wisdoms, and a lot of the spiritual world for these young little deers are being hijacked, for those that are waking up to be snagged. And I know for a fact I was one of those little baby deers, going to a lot of these people or healers out there, and wow, I've had big eye openings around it. You've got to be careful who you put your energy with and what you open up your energy to. And I mean everything from like a lot of the yoga, Sanskrits, what you're chanting to, all that is, you're letting in forces that really want your energy. Everything right now I feel like is about keeping our energy intact. And what does that mean? Like you said, what are the steps? Number one, it's the boring shit. It's the boring stuff.
Usually it is, isn't it?
It's being grounded. Okay? Every single one of my talks, being grounded. Papa Joe, my teacher, talks about being grounded. Be in the here and now. Be in the here and now of who you are. So many people being grounded, and then they be in who you are, in the common sense, who you are in this here and now. And a lot, what I mean by that is a lot of like gurus, they're changing their name, they're like bringing them all out into all kinds of alternative realities. No, being you with everything that you came into the world with, and be honest, and stand before God. And that's where you're going to find out who you are, where you're going to get your real grounded roots, and and stop fluffing everything up the way you think things should be. Being in that like, ouch, this sucks, this doesn't feel good, I'm a big dork, whatever. Like, stop, let go of the masks. That's another big part of it. Grounding, let go of the mask. Stop pretending, just be you. And that, Papa Joe was saying, just be yourself, like, and that would become a Rubik's Cube quiz, like, wow, be myself, what a concept, like, who am I, really? And that becomes the spiritual walk.
That's a big one, because, you're talking about the masks that people end up spending a lot of time, fussing over. That's energy that can't be used toward something like aligning with your higher self.
Yeah, like a lot of times I'm working with people, and it's like they're like 1 second away from really walking through that door. Really.
Huh.
It's like right there, the door, and they're like being, they're too busy trying to be cool, and I don't know, they don't want to let go of the image of I don't know, of being macho or have the image of whatever. He's like, just stand before God and be real and just be yourself. And and this whole idea of pointing the finger and being angry at your mom, your dad, the president, the like all this stuff, like he's the danger, all this garbage. I hear it and I'm like, this is all toxic poison. Never mind all that. You alone in the face of God, and stop pointing the finger at everything of why you can't be happy. I do like to mention a little bit, like, I come from the most horrific childhood anyone could ever have. And people don't really know this about me. They hear drips and drabs, and I'm not here to gain sympathy or even look like, oh, I'm great, I've overcome, but just to really get people to understand really not a good situation. And my whole job was to transcend that, to come out of victim consciousness and move into a higher realm. I am so strong as a result of that. I help others now. And everybody that's worked with me, they know this. They know it. And so let go of the story of why you're so justified in hatred and so justified in being a victim. It's time for this to stop. I see all those kids yelling, from one side or the other, and their hatred of the next thing. I'm sure half of them don't even know what they're angry about. And I'm like, wow, what, I would like to sit all those people down and say, time to take responsibility for your own rage. What the hell are you so angry about? Really? And I think that's where we all can start the spiritual journey of what the hell are you so angry about? And what justifies you? We need to do our own work. And if you got dealt a horrible card deck, some worse than others, and maybe some that don't and feel guilty that they have so much pain and they had privilege, and it's not that. It's just to have that honest talk about the soul. Your soul chose this. You have chosen this destiny, this life you're in now. So if you're hating, if you're miserable, you have to make peace with that. You have chosen this. And as you take responsibility and overcome that which is haunting you, making you angry, making you this, that, or the other, and make peace with it, all of it, and stop pointing our fingers at everybody else. Now, everything I'm saying is old news. We all know this, right? But applying it is different. That's why when I work with people, I become very unpopular, because it's like I get people to start looking at these things in themselves. But this is where the gold is, and this is where the kingdom lies, in going through these doorways, and never mind all that out there. So how are we going to do all this while it's this noisy? And who do we believe and who do we not believe? And that's why I say you have to start by going within and reflecting everything back to God. And what is God? And what does that mean? Well, what does that mean for you? Well, be courageous enough to do it and enter, and then you'll find out.
Seems like you're saying that if somebody has a way to line up with their higher self, they're not going to miss the target if they're aiming for God. But if they're lined up on something else than their higher self, then it might be really hard to actually find that target. You might find something else.
You'll find plenty else. Yeah, you'll find plenty else.
Which I think is maybe the point of all the noise in the world right now. Is look at all these other things that you could
be mad at.
Yeah, land on this, land on that. 20 million things out there. And
pick a card.
There's one thing that you actually, that your soul actually wants is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. It's about you and your own work and your soul. Day to day is hard. It's hard for all of us, and especially with the volume of everything that just honestly wants to snag your focus, your attention. And if you think that's not real, it is. It's very real. And nothing wants you to wake up. It's a very hard process. And
why is that? Why is it desirable for whatever it is out there to keep us from being our, the highest version of ourselves?
That's the best ultimate question you can ask. And that is simply because if I'm awake, I set off a frequency that sets off your frequency. That if you stand next to me in that light, it's going to help you remember. And I'm going to reflect back to you the truth of who you are. And all those people that are gaslighting you or gaslighting in general or telling you to think, feel, and act a certain way, whatever it is, even, churches, then you might be able to feel empowered. And that's a dangerous thing. People, understand that this is the big game going on now. It's a battle for our consciousness, for our and when I'm awake and I'm talking to you and you hear me and you awaken and then you talk to so and Joe Schmo and et cetera, this is where we're dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, who are these forces? Who's the forces that want to keep you down? Well, I can go into a little bit of that, and it might sound a little sci-fi, but there are, specific energies that have controlled this planet for a long time. And don't just think, it's the Democrats or it's the Republicans. Don't go there, please, people. It's way beyond that.
Mm.
They're the ones controlling the strings above all that, you know what I mean? And they do not want you to awaken. They don't. And they don't want you empowered. They don't. And why not? I think that's a big question for a lot of you to ask, and to ask your own selves. Go in your own quiet spaces and go, look in the mirror of yourself and into your soul, and what would life be like if you were in your power? It's great to ask you that. What would life look like when I'm not in all my fear or all my rage? You're being distracted, because the actual goal to get there is not that complicated. It's very simple, but very, very difficult.
You're talking about not just the things that block us, because in the picture that you paint, somebody is awake and then they actually become another conduit of light, and they're going to eliminate people around them. The converse then must also be true. If I'm asleep, then I'm going to conduit that to people around me, and we're all going to be asleep, and we're all going to stay asleep, because that's the energy, that's the way the energy is getting utilized. Is that a fair assessment, or is that wrong? Because we're talking about viralness, essentially.
Yeah.
Consciousness is viral, and the opposite of consciousness, is that also viral?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
You see it happening all around. And I feel like people need to, this whole thing of... I honestly, the only true battle going on is the battle of good and evil. It's honestly, it sounds like Lord of the Rings, but it's true. It's the battle of good and evil. And where do you stand on all that? And where do you want to be, And I would say 99% of people, or I'll say 95, would be like, I want to be on the side of the good, right? I want to be good. Maybe there's, 5%, I don't know. I won't speak for everybody. But most of the people I know anyways. And so what's stopping you? It's as simple as that, What's stopping you? And it's your job each day to realign, recommit, and just get back on your bike again. And just, it's really just a commitment of where you're placing your mind. And obviously, it's not like burying your head in the sand. There's stuff going on. We pay attention and all. And there's some really scary and nasty, yucky things that, break my heart on a daily basis when I see them. And that's part of being human. And I'm very sensitive, and you just gotta pray for that soul or whatever, So, you get back on your bike. I work in a field, and a lot of people know that listen to this, and maybe not, with a lot of negative energies. And that's how they operate. That's how they operate. They operate by tricking you.
And you've talked about entities. Is this what we're talking about? How entities work?
Entities and how they work. They work by tricking you, by distracting you.
Talk about this, because a lot of what you do is somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, something's wrong, or I feel maybe not the way I should be, and you start working with them, and then you discover a bunch of entities.
Right. Well, a lot of just what I discovered, 20 plus years ago when I started working with my teacher. It was even before that. I wasn't a normal kid. Yeah, let's face it. I was not a normal kid. I had things talking to me. I talked to angels. I saw angels. Whatever, people believe in them or don't, whatever, I did. And I think because I had such a, I don't even know the word, toxic childhood, that I had to reach higher. I had to survive. And there were celestial beings working with me, and angelic beings, and I knew they were there. And so I learned very early on, I had already... I knew when they were around, not every time. And then when I finally met my teacher, and this is what he did, it was very, I think I mentioned this in our last one, where it became very apparent that I actually wasn't the crazy one anymore, that, and then this is what I do, I just put my hands on people, the energy comes through, and the bad guys leave their body. If they're in alignment. That's why, I have to charge people, because if I didn't, there has to be an agreement, like a thing, like, okay, I'm coming here today, I signed this form, I'm agreeing that, I'm in agreement that I'm wanting to let go of whatever needs to let go of today. It's not up to me, really, who and how and why, and it's all decided. It's up to them and their higher power and their guides and their guidance and
absolutely
what they're ready for that day.
Yeah.
They go, okay, I want to feel better. That's the first step.
That's like a very basic.
Yeah, I want to feel better. And I say a lot that usually they come out of desperation. Like, okay, my friend told me to come 20 times and I'm finally coming.
I mean, isn't that kind of what you're talking about? That's sort of like the ground floor of humility.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, it is. It's like, okay, this isn't working. I need help. What do I do? And it's that humble heart, coming back to that original statement, where you're just like, I don't know, and I would like to know, and I want to feel better. And I think a lot can be done from that point forward. When people have the desire and the willingness and some humility.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the first alignment of saying, hey, there is something, there's a higher version of this, and maybe, I can get off the ground floor.
Yes.
Type of thing.
I would like to also mention today that a lot of the people that I work with, I mentioned before, that come to me are healers themselves. There are people that are maybe they're not doing healing the way I do it. They might be doing it, and as I've said, like they might be a doctor or a nurse, or they're making chocolate, or they're a school teacher, or they're a mother, they're a lawyer. Their energy, your energy is changing that frequency of where you are in your worlds. And I feel it's important that those that might be listening to this today really get that you, more than anyone, need to know who's thinking in that moment through your brain of yours, who's feeling. Like all of a sudden you start to get angry, or like you're crying nonstop. What's going on? Is this your energy or something you've taken on? I really find it's important that people really start to learn more about the energy world in a real way, and not in these kind of altered ways that I keep hearing about that keep throwing people really off center. You want to move forward. Let's talk, let's talk.
Well, it would seem like, if you need all of these external aids to image a concept of energy, you're probably overlooking the fact that you have all this energy where you don't need all this stuff. I mean, everything we've talked about right now is how important we are as vessels of energy.
Yes. But I mean, for people, I really want to urge you, it's much simpler than what you think. It's difficult, but it's much simpler. It's just get grounded, get present, get humble, and and get aligned with God. It really is that.
Is it because we have been given so many different kinds of examples of what God is. Energy is, yeah, and what God is, and so if everybody's 99% good, if 99% of us are good, and we are, seeking alignment with our concept of God, and we want to do right with energy, but there are so many different forms, ways to interpret that. That's why it's so chaotic. Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm here to say, and hopefully like I reach one person, then this is great. That it's very quiet. All you need to do is go into a place, and it takes 5 minutes. I'm too busy. It's just having the desire, and you and a lot of times people are coming to me and they're worshiping Shiva and all this stuff, and they're stop it. You just need to go out and if you can, take off your shoes or go for a walk in nature. Just be mindful, ask for help. If you can't do it, I can't meditate. It's you don't have to meditate, just that moment where you can just align. It takes a second, and then you can walk through that doorway, and then you can build on those seconds. I do not live in this place all the time. People that know me in my day-to-day life, I can be really cuckoo, and I'm very human, and I'm like, my teacher was very human, and he would get cranky, and he would, one of the most powerful, I've been around powerful people, okay, just to let you all know. And he would, laugh about it, like today I started off thinking I was going to be the most neutral that I've ever been, and, 20 minutes later the phone rang. It's about being human. It's not being about perfect, so let go of that too, Just have an earnest, humble heart. The desire, the willingness, and a humble heart. And it'd be really good if you could have a very solid teacher. And I cannot stress that enough. Those that are working as healers really need a teacher. Because I'm telling you, to be infiltrated is in a sneeze. How things work. Even me, I need to be diligent of, there's so many forces that even yesterday, to knowing that I was going to do my podcast today, that already start messing with me.
Really?
All the time. And if they can't get through me directly, they'll use the people around me. This is the reality. And it's a reality for a lot of you too, but you just don't know it yet. Or maybe you know it, but you think, there's so many things that don't mirror this back to you. And I think it's time that you get this mirror and really get strengthened and, have a good group of people around you. I mean, wow. Real friends, real people, really good people around you. And try to be as communicative as possible and as real as possible. There again, it's time to drop the masks. Get real with yourself,
It's probably easier for somebody to choose humility and ask for help if they're surrounded by people that care for them.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe that's why people don't do it as much.
Yeah,
because
they're not surrounded by that.
You mentioned that a lot of people who come to you are healers themselves in various ways, as interpreted by their own life, and it occurred to me, oh yeah, of course, if people are healing and they are clearing stuck energy or bad energy or anything that is not necessarily aligned or awake energy, all that stuff goes somewhere.
Yeah. I was watching, I was at a farmer's market, and I was watching this woman work on this girl in front. She had her sitting in a chair in front of her, and she was doing all her, mojo, hocus pocus, rattles and this and that,
wow.
and sage. Yeah. I was just watching her. I was just curious, just like, let's see. And the girl...
That's not massage, though. That's something else.
Yeah, she was doing healing, shamanic work,
Uh-huh. At the farmer's market.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the girl in the stall next to her, who had the honey stall, starts coughing to the point where she has to get up.
Oh, wow.
And leave her stall, leave it empty. And I was just watching the whole thing, and I just thought, I bet you that woman that's clearing her isn't aware that it's just shooting off for this woman and going on the innocent woman with the honey stand.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And later on, I bought honey from that girl, and I just smiled at her, and I said a little prayer.
Wow. So, I mean, that's a big deal. Energy is real.
Energy is real.
Energy is real.
Yeah.
Just ask the Energizer Bunny,
Yeah.
So you're in that same space, but with human energy and spiritual energy, and you have to think about that, right? You're clearing somebody out. It's got to go somewhere. I remember asking you this question last time too, but it's like, it's about taking out the trash,
Yeah, I love that.
Where do you take out the trash, and how do you do it, and how do you keep yourself from? How do we all, if we all can be healers?
Exactly.
How do we?
We all are, really.
How do we keep ourselves clean, and how do we take out the trash, and how do we do that so that we can all be sharing light, transmitting light?
Yes. Well, this is a good question for everyone today. It's like, and I mean, please, people, can we start to be more mindful with what you put out in the world? Just take this moment today and really say, wow, could I do better? Yes. I mean, I can say the same too. So be very mindful of your thoughts. Be very mindful of the way you speak of people, and be very mindful of what you're putting out into the world. What are you putting out in the world today? And is it how you would like to be treated?
Is that something that Papa Joe taught?
Well, it's funny. He was very down to earth, and he was a man, and he was a Maori. So they have a way, it's just a matter of fact, kind of way of looking at things. Like say you're all smug and you're acting all like know-it-all, and you end up getting your butt kicked, like in any way, like somebody telling you off, or energetically you get a kick. He'll say, well, serves you right. You know, that he was very like pragmatic like that, and he didn't hold back. He like let you know like you're being a schmuck, or you know, but he would do the same for himself. You know, he had a very healthy radar of self-honesty, and I love that, and I think we all should be doing that.
Well, something about that, I think, because I'm still trying to formulate this toolkit that we're talking about. Something like that probably helps cultivate humility,
Yes.
right? Within a group, right? If you've
Yeah.
had people who are, calling you out, and you're open to being called out, and you don't feel like threatened if that's going to happen, then
It's funny because I mean he said some big, heavy things to me, you know, and from the moment he met me, because once upon a time I was, you know, my ambition was to be an actress, you know, in my old life. I call it my old life, and people that know me know that's my old life. And the first thing he said to me after he did a huge session on me, and he said, "You're not being honest." And I thought, like, you know, imagine meeting a stranger. He performs an exorcism on you, and then he tells you afterwards, and you literally see God through all their eyes. I mean, it was pretty profound. These Maoris, wow. And then afterwards, he says, "I want to speak with you." And then he says, "You had a really hard life." I said, "Yes." And then he starts talking to me about how I'm not being honest. Imagine.
This is your first session with him?
Yeah, and this is my first conversation with him. Like, and I say this, and I did a blog, and I say this, but I'll say it here again. And I thought in my mind, I'm not being honest. And I knew instantly. He cut through all the bullshit in me. And I thought about being an actress, and he looked at me. As I thought that thought, he looked at me and he pointed his finger. I said, "Damn, this man can read my mind."
Wow.
Yeah, and he called me out. Like, get rid of the bullshit. And this is not your path, so to speak. This was not anything to do with who I was as a soul. This had everything to do with what my ego thought I should be doing. And that was it. So if you're willing to just drop out of your ego. But the thing is a lot of times when I work with people, the ego comes up and I don't hear from them for another 10 years, or if ever again. It's uncanny, even though they want to heal. So the ability to accept good criticism, obviously you got to trust the person that they're not out to get you or whatever, but to have that knowing in your heart that this person is just trying to get you to get out of your bullshit and get where you need to go. So if you feel that with the person, I just had with him an innate trust. I knew he was goodness.
And this idea of having choices, I think, is really important because, back to what we're talking about, how the world just seems so, I don't want to say crazy, but it does seem kind of crazy. Like every direction you look, any time of day, there's just some other thing dropping that is like potentially something that everybody should be freaking out about.
Yes. And then a week later, it's like, oh, man,
This whole, it's so draining on this idea of having energy and being a good steward of it.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah. Yay. I love how you just put that right in my lap. We're basically, I can go all the way back where it was brought to my attention and just bring it into, like I say, there's forces that have been on this planet. They want to stay in control on this planet. It's their time to go. That's how it was mentioned to me.
This is how it was introduced to you when you were starting your Maori healing.
Okay, let me tell you something. I, at one point, was just excelling every day, working with the Maoris, and every day Papa was giving me the new person, the new challenge, and And he told me afterwards, the hardest person in the room. Okay, listen to this. This is my entry point to this, what I have to say. He was training me how to take energies out of people's bodies, entities. And I felt very sure of myself and cocky. I went after something, and he wanted me to have this lesson. And I reached in to grab the entity out of this girl's stomach. And I don't know, maybe the size of like a good, I don't know, bigger than a big pit bull's jaws, opened up and grabbed my arm and wouldn't let me go.
Wow.
And I was screaming, it has teeth! It's biting me! Ah! So people, hear me. This was, even though I was doing the work, I had never experienced anything quite like this. And I looked at Papa, because he was so calmly working on someone, and he turned around and looked at me like, just another day at the office. And he looked at me, he said, go outside, like that. So I went outside, and I was batshit crazy. I was a mess. I felt like my nose was on the top of my head, and my lips were on the side of my ear. I was like, whoa, what is this? I felt like I was in a gooey web of distortion. I had zero control over it. I had no idea how to get out of it. And he said, go outside and clear it. And I thought, how am I going to clear this thing? I just tried to find the code to it, if you like. Not that I knew that was the word back then. I was trying to find how to exit it out of me, and I had no idea. And then all of a sudden, my ears began to ring. You know how I speak like this. When my ears ring, something higher is going, okay. And I just sat there like a little puppy dog, really, feeling so vulnerable. And I felt this, like a wing of a feather, lift this thing out of me. I knew it was Papa Joe working on me from the room. And I just, at the time, I used to smoke cigarettes. I had a cigarette, and I just had a little talk with God. And I was like, I knew what I was entering was bigger than me. I knew I was frightened, and I knew I had every reason to be. And then I went back in. I put my cigarette out, and I went back in. And then Papa, later on in the day, pulled me aside. And I felt like I felt so humiliated, because I was so full of myself, and I was like, woohoo, I'm like becoming this big superstar, aren't I? I'm really great, aren't I? And he said to me, that was no normal dog. He said that was no normal dog. He called the entities dogs. He goes, that was a creature. And I was like, whoa, what's that? And that's when he said, these are the energies that have been here for a very long time, and they don't want to go, but it's their time to go. And I said, is my job to clear them? He said, you will know. You will know. Once you're ready, you will know. So I know when we're talking about what's going on in the world, it's like the volume of these monsters are being turned up. They can operate through any human body at any time. They can jump in and out of people. That's why people say, oh, this person's the bad guy, this person's the bad guy. No, we're all the bad guy. We're all the bad guy, and we need to keep ourselves grounded, conscious, present, not distracted, very, very much in our bodies, very much in our power, very much in our common sense, and very much humble and with God. And it's like in The Matrix, the movie The Matrix, where these things jump in and out, the agents jump in and out of the bodies. It can happen. Be careful what you line yourself with. Be careful if it's like looking down its nose at everybody else as well. It's not about like I'm superior because I'm like a little bit of a spiritual person. No. It's about being humble. A humble heart. And, that's why in the Bible they mention, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. That's what we're talking about. So if you're going about hating anybody, know that they're being used, as I say, by the other side. That's how my language goes. So how does this all work in my message to you today? My message to you today is for you to keep your frequency. This is the real message today. And for you to, how do we keep our frequency? Now, by refusing to join in any of this negative banter. You are the captain of your ship. You know, you need to do the work to keep yourself out of those places, you know, and I have to too. They trick me and they want to pull me in, and, you know, and it's a matter of, you know, you have a little piggy bank, right? Are you putting your money in the little piggy bank of the problem? Or are you putting the piggy bank into your wellness and a higher spiritual being? It is that simple. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, you'll be every single minute of the day, but that's what my message is today, is keeping our frequency. And don't be so caught up in doing the whole spiritual thing that all your friends are doing. It's more about, a lot of the times, it's a lonely path, you know, and it's going against the grain. You know, a lot of my years I spent on my own, really alone. I'm not saying that has to be your case, but this was mine, you know, where I had to just, it's like a house that keeps getting dusty. You have to get up every day and dust it, you know. But keeping your frequency is, you know, a good night's sleep. Not drinking alcohol to where it takes you from your body. You know, drugs, alcohol, no-nos. You know, it's your talk, your self-talk, the talk that you put out about other people. I can't stress enough. Stop it, you know. You are part of the problem. If you're gossiping, stop. And, you know, getting out to nature. You know, ever go on a walk or ever go to the beach, you feel better afterwards. Go to the beach. Go for a walk. Eat good food. Eat high we all know the most part what to eat and not to eat, you know. Eat clean, organic, live food. As clean from the farm as possible, you know. Grow your own food if you can. You know, it's actually cheaper to live that way, you know. It's to grow your own food. I have chard growing in my garden now that's been there for almost a year. Every single day I grab a huge handful from just seed and put it in my smoothies, you know. So just saying, you actually don't need a lot of money. You maybe need a little bit of a space, but, you know, so clean food, clean people. Listen to things that fill your heart and your soul. You know, you have to be the grown-up here, you know. And my last thing I talked about is inner child work, you know. We need to take care of that little child that feels like, you know, that wants to eat French fries and candy bars every day, you know. What part of you is wanting to fill that place, you know? We need to do our own emotional work. You know, we need to clear our resentments. You need to clear the resentments. You need to walk the walk. We need to take care of our bodies, our minds, our hearts, and our souls.
It's, on some level, it makes total sense. On some level, I can see somebody thinking, oh my God, how do I start this?
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many messages around us which give us other options.
I know.
The other directions.
I know.
Which it's pretty clear what the other directions are, because you've charted like a pretty clear path of what is high frequency and what is maybe not low frequency, but not necessarily high frequency.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said with this whole thing of really aligning to what our soul's meant to do. You know, why are you here, and what are you good at? You know, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? and it's a hard one because a lot of times, especially with the younger people, it's like their egos are all invested, you know. They want to be rock stars, they want to be movie stars, they want to, but, you know, okay, maybe I'm not talking to you, but like people that are maybe a little bit more mature, that are like ready to really, you know, are we ready to grow up? You know, ask yourself, are you ready to grow up and just do what you're meant to do? You know, are you ready to let go of what no longer is serving you? Are you ready to walk your potential higher self? And the truth is that. So if there's any fear in like where to start, or should I, or ooh, I'm not going to be cool anymore, or just like I'm going to be giving up, like you're actually not giving up anything. You're entering into what is meant to be and who you're meant to be. And I think there's nothing greater than that.
That's beautiful, and it's true. And I think even in a time like this where everything seems so chaotic and it seems like there's nowhere to go or to move with a decision, actually it provides the perfect contrast. Because if somebody goes within, as you're saying,
Yeah.
and cultivating like a calmness or a peace or a neutrality or a balance, that contrasted with the outer world, it's going to be really clear.
Yeah.
The messages become more clear, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know, just make a commitment, you know, and that commitment is like, you know, you're going to fall off your horse every single day. You know, don't even worry. Just know that you will. Just make a commitment to be yourself. Be yourself.
Wise words.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.